Good day everyone. For today's lessons, we will tackle about intellectual revolutions that define society. Asian. Learning objectives. At the end of the lesson, the student should be able to understand the intellectual revolution that defines society. Asian. Understand the colonizers that influence Asia. Learn the revolutionary leaders of modern Asia. Lastly, understand the experience of imperialism.
Asian Revolution. As a historical process, revolution refers to a movement, often violent, to overthrow an old regime and effect complete change in the fundamental institution of society. Science and technology in Asia is varied depending on the country and time. The picture shows the example of Asian market. 19th century. This is the map of Asia. In 19th century, three factors changed the Asian monetary system forever, and these are the globalization of trade, colonization, and inflation. Another major event in the 19th century was colonization of Asia by European force. As European countries imposed these methods of government on local populations, the coinage began to reflect the traditions of foreign imperial powers. 20th century. The region has two major characteristics politically: a great diversity in political system and no failed states. To analyze these features by examining 20th century Asian history, the two concepts of nation building and international relations will be important. The absence of failed states in Asia means the state building process in East Asia, including countries with a colonial past, has proceeded relatively smoothly. Individual countries has undergone their own historical development through interactions involving the state, society and markets within the context of dynamically changing international relations. This is the picture of Euro-American imperialism. Colonizers that influence Asia. The picture shows the Indian people. What we know of today as Indian and Southeast Asia relations began in prehistoric times and continued until Western colonial hegemony was established in the 18th and 19th centuries. In the essay that follows, India is defined as the Indian subcontinent up to the end of colonial rule. The contemporary nations of Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar or Burma, Singapore, Thailand, Timor-Leste or East Timor, the Philippines and Vietnam historical encompassed a region profoundly impacted by Indian, Chinese, Islamic, and then European civilizations. Southeast Asia has its indigenous particularities and nuances that makes the region distinctive too. Next is China. China's economic and political footprint has expanded so quickly that many countries, even those with relative strong state and civil society institutions, have struggled to grapple with the implications. There has been growing attention to this issue in the United States and the advanced industrial democracies of Japan and Western Europe. But vulnerable countries, those where the gap is greatest between the scope and intensity of Chinese activism, on the one hand, and on the other, local capacity to manage and mitigate political and economic risks face special challenges, both within and beyond these countries. Meanwhile, policy too often transposes Western solutions and is not well adapted to local realities. The picture below shows the Chinese people and the Chinatown. This is the illustration of Japan. Japan had been a profound influence on Southeast Asia, whether it is measured by Japan's often brutal but ultimately liberating wartime occupation of the region, or by the more recent economic interaction, Japan has played major part in shaping Southeast Asia's political and economic development. In an East Asian region, in which it continues to account for around two-thirds of economic output, Japan's towers over its neighbor and inevitably exercise a major influence through sheer economic weight. The revolutionary leaders of modern Asia. This is Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong, also known as Chairman Mao, was a Chinese communist revolutionary who was the founding father of the People's Republic of China, which he ruled as the chairman of the Chinese Communist Party from the establishment of the PRC in 1949 until his death in 1976. Ideological, a Marxist-Leninist, his theories, military strategies, and political policies are collectively known as Maoism. Next is Mohandas Gandhi, was an Indian lawyer, anti-colonial nationalist, and political ethicist who employed non-violent resistance to lead the successful campaign for India's independence from British rule, and to later inspire movements for civil rights and freedom across the world. The honorific Mahatma, or Sanskrit, which means great souled or venerable, first applied to him in 1914 in South Africa, is now used throughout the world. And this is the illustration of Mohandas Gandhi. Next is Ho Chi Minh, who was a Vietnamese revolutionary and politician. He served as Prime Minister of Democratic Republic of Vietnam from 1945 to 1955 and President from 1945 until his death in 1969. Ideological, a Marxist-Leninist, he served as Chairman and First Secretary of the Workers' Party of Vietnam. He was born in Ninh Province in central Vietnam. This is the illustration of Ho Chi Minh. This is Aung San Suu Kyi. Aung San Suu Kyi is a human rights activist, Nobel Peace Prize winner, and state councillor of Myanmar. Suu Kyi was not able to be president. Instead, she became the state councillor of Myanmar. She brought some democracy to her country and with non-violence. She is the leader of the National League for Democracy in Burma and the famous prisoner.
Imperialism. The experience of imperialism helped spark many of the revolutions of 20th century Asia. It was the historical condition that radicalized revolutionaries from Ho Chi Minh and Mao Zedong to Mohandas Gandhi. Many Asian revolutionaries sought not simply to achieve independent nationhood, but also to transform their societies eternally. Summary. Revolution refers to a movement, often violent, to overthrow an old regime and effect complete change in the fundamental institutions of society. In the 19th century, three factors changed the Asian monetary system forever: the globalization of trade, colonization, and inflation. Individual countries have undergone their own historical development through interactions involving the state, society, and markets within the context of dynamically changing international relations. The colonizers in Asia during the 20th century are India, China, and Japan. The revolutionary leaders of modern Asia are Mao Zedong, Mohandas Gandhi, Ho Chi Minh, and Aung San Suu Kyi. The experience of imperialism helped spark many of the revolutions of 20th century Asia.